Good evening. I'm Darmendra Gordon, and this is the Vegan Synergy Experience number 29. Welcome to you who are here now, and to those of you who will be listening to the recording later. I invite you to just take a moment and allow yourself to shift out of the mind space of your everyday mindset and just allow yourself to sort of center into your body and just feel yourself in your space right now. And the sensation of your skin as it comes in contact with the air around you and the furniture you're on. And just allow yourself to be aware of the sounds in your space. And whatever visual impressions you're taking in, just be aware of that too. And with another deep breath, just allow all that energy that's been moving up in your mind to move down into your heart and feel the connection with the present moment and with yourself and with how you're feeling. And just be aware of that. Just be aware of the feelings and the sensations moving through you. And one more deep breath as we send awareness down into our belly and through our belly down into the earth and into the center of the earth. And then allow the earth to send that energy back up through us and up in to the sky and into the sun, the source of life for this solar system. As we move into the theme for this week of the 18th Life Code, called Mirroring, which involves the ability to accurately reflect what is before one's eyes, and then to determine if any adjustments are needed in order to optimize the relationship of the parts in their interactions in supporting the whole of which they are a part. There is inherent in this life code an innate capacity to distinguish the most optimal contribution of each and every part in the sustaining of the overall functioning of any system in terms of the efficiency possible and attainable and for which it was designed. It is an awareness of the potential of a pattern to produce a result that is in alignment with the purpose for which it was designed. And in this life code, as we are made aware of the possible actions we can take in order to correct any deviations from the most logical arrangement of the pattern for producing results, it is always given in the spirit of increasing efficiency through refining the methods employed in obtaining our desired aims. This life code is part of the life stream of taste. Taste in the sense of refinement through our capacity to perceive the determining conditions of whatever circumstances we are currently involved in, and then through the correct sensing of and accurate evaluation of our experience, and ultimately correcting our course through the most immediate, appropriate, and available manifestations. In the original I Ching, this life code was conceived and is still known as the hexagram of work on what has been spoiled, and in essence conveys the meaning of correcting with the intent to improve. It is also worth noting that after learning about the designs of the spirit, which is the theme of the life code preceding this one, which we went through last week, that after the true pattern has been revealed, then through the mirroring of this code, one has the potential to make adjustments that more accurately reflect that true pattern in actual life events in such a way that will actually serve a useful purpose and to the greatest benefit of all concerned. So the shadow of this life code involves a situation where what has been mirrored back to oneself, instead of being utilized as feedback for further growth and development, is projected out onto the external environment in such a way that the very issues reflected are now seen as belonging to someone else, most notably the one who produced the original reflection. A person functioning at the shadow level of this life code eventually comes to see the whole world as full of faults, and those faults are exactly those very ones that this individual refuses to see in themselves. And it is not that this individual is incapable of being a mirror for another individual, but that the reflection shared with another is mixed with all kinds of judgments arising as a result of reactions to the very content they are mirroring. And it is out of fear at being perceived as less than perfect that these kinds of individuals find others to be the source of their problems, as their kind of logic doesn't allow for there to be imperfections in their self-image. The funny thing is that these people are always raging against the shortcomings of others while being completely in the dark about their own. They are always expecting that others follow a certain unwritten code of behavior known only to themselves, while of themselves they never apply such a code as they are to their own way of thinking beyond any such restrictions. When we shift to the gift frequency of this life code, the capacity to honestly face one's inner world opens up to the gaze of such an individual, as it is only through facing and accepting one's own limitations that one is capable of giving a clear reflection of similar limitations in others. This is the true core from which the quality of integrity arises, as it is only through facing one's unrefined parts and having the wherewithal to develop those parts that one is capable of truly being of service as a therapeutic provider to the collective. Such an individual will not only be able to resonate in synchronicity with whatever frequency of consciousness is being presented through any person, but also at such a moment, that individual would also be aware of a whole range of possible upgrades available in order to refine the quality of the presenting frequency of that person. This gift is essential in the advancement of humanity in terms of cultural, artistic, and especially scientific achievements, because without it, there would be no awareness of the transformations of a pattern through a spectrum of possible frequencies of expression. The capacity to isolate and zero in on a pattern and to correlate frequency variations of that same pattern are part and parcel of the gift of this life code. As this gift evolves through the individual, it contributes significantly to the versatility of the use of the term taste and the ability to be tactful in the way one lifts another up through the very act of correcting. It is a true art where one is able to make a critique into a gift of a refinement and evolution that impacts another in a truly beneficial way. With the siddha, we enter the realm of those that are capable of bringing forth and elaborating the true essence of a pattern to perfection. Not only that, but they can illuminate a pattern in such a way so as to weave it through an internet-connected series of stories and or events that begins in the depths of the shadows, as it winds its way slowly along through the twists and turns in the labyrinth of its own development, as it reveals ever more of its functional presence through multiple layers of reality. And all of that is taking place as a spontaneous expression that is unraveling unrehearsed into the present moment, as a portrayal of an occurrence that is taking place along several timelines simultaneously, that generously illuminates the richness of existence from so many points of view. This brings to mind the name of the siddha of this life code of integral reality, a universal pattern that serves as an initiating force for the refinement and evolution of a pattern that moves through all the many layers and levels of existence. Hence, its purpose is to bring about a greater integration of the parts that make up a system, so that it may function according to a higher order, with a greater degree of freedom in its ability to reflect the reality it represents. And so the theme of this life code is the perfecting of all possible expressions of a pattern throughout all orders of existence, so that new possibilities arise in the never-ending exploration of the pure potential of being, to actualize itself ever fresh, ever new, and always intriguing, enticing, invigorating, and inviting. So with that, I welcome everybody here, and I will bring up the the PowerPoint so we can stay on track with what we're working on and sharing tonight. And I'll start, as always, with the shadow of projection. And this life code, pardon my French, but it can be a bitch at times because it's work on what's been spoiled, because there's always something somewhere out there that's just waiting to come in and push your buttons. And the minute those buttons are pushed, that energy that you're receiving gets thrown back on another person with a whole load of your own projections of whatever might be behind that, which you're reflecting back to that person in the form of judgments and scoldings and coldness, or being, or kind of putting a curve on it to maybe hit them in a way that they're vulnerable, or so that's the interesting thing about projections. And many times it's not like, in a lot of situations we may be driving in a car and we can't necessarily talk to the person who just cut us off at the light or whatever, but one of the greatest places to throw our projections out on others is when we're driving. Is it not? I think so. So, I mean, this is one of those life codes where, a lot of the life codes will think of we'll bring up things from our life, maybe that we've been working on since the last week from the last life code we worked on. But this one is kind of there under the surface pretty much all the time, because in every moment, such is the nature of our life, that there's always something we can take a look at for the purpose of bringing in more love, more awareness, more maturity, more openness, more vulnerability, all the qualities that would allow us to expand and grow. So really, when we project, it's like somebody hits us in a certain place, and everything we don't like about that place we throw back on them. If we're in a shadow mode, there's no way that our mirror is going to reflect anything clearly. And so for one of the biggest places I'm guessing I perceive that I project is with the people that are most close to me in my life. And that includes at work too, with people I work with all the time, or any type of situation where I spend a lot of time around others in my life, whether that's work or at home, or it could even be the shopping, when I go out shopping to the places I frequent when I shop. And then it's not so much a person as it is maybe just the weather that day, because we can project on anything. We can project on the weather, we can project on existence and God and everything, and our whole life situation. We're constantly saying, well, thank you, existence, for throwing us that curve. Boy, that was really, because so many times what we get out of life is not what we anticipated or expected, or wanted or hoped for or intended. So yeah, I think that just kind of lays out the general environment of what the shadow of projection is all about. And I have moments, here and there throughout every day where if it's not the weather, it's a person or a place or even sometimes it's just you turn on TV and there's that orange-haired baboon going on about something again, and that's a real easy one to project on. Boy, and all of his minions that just are too cowardly to do anything other than what he says, and shame on all of them and what they're doing to not. And here I go, I'm going to start projecting. Shame on all of them for not supporting the environment and making regulations that protect us against climate change and all the things they're not doing, and everything they're doing to hasten basically our extinction and every other form of life extinction. So there you go. There was a good example of a projection right now in the moment. That's how easy it is with this life code to actually, a clear mirror of all that would be they're just afraid. They don't know any better. They're ruled by their conditioning. and they really have no choice in the matter, and they're so deeply and darkly conditioned, and there's so much money involved and so much power involved that they're never going to let go of that position in this lifetime. And so that's who our leaders are. And so that was more of a clear reflection, and we'll get to that when we get to it. But I will, at this moment, go on mute and ask Adriana or Danya if they'd like to share on the shadow of projection.
Hey, Darb, I'll go ahead and share. So I was thinking about things that that I find myself projecting on, and or that I have, and one really stuck out to me. That so my mom is facing early dementia, and she has early onset dementia, and I so of course I'm very compassionate and loving with that, but I find myself also having issues with short-term memory loss a lot, and I'm just, I'm just 52. So it's very scary for me, and very alarming for me to see, because my mom just turned 80, to see what is possibility of coming next. And my onset is happening much faster and sooner. And it's so it's very scary, and I find myself, when it's a part of me that I don't like to go to. And when I'm talking to my mom, most of the time, I, I'm very compassionate and loving. I mean, you know me, that's how I am. However, there are times where I lose my patience. I get upset. I'm just like, Mom, focus. I need your attention. I'm trying to tell you something. And I find myself getting harsher and harsher. And I know that for me, that's a lot of fear about not wanting to take a look at potentially what could happen to me. And so it's very scary. And I see a lot of that. My father is yelling at her all the time, and has completely lost patience with her. And I know that's a lot of projection of fear and mortality. And so it's definitely prominent right now, and seeing my parents age. And so yeah, that's a big part of where my projection is right now.
Wow, that must be challenging. Thank you for sharing that. That's quite must be quite interesting.
Yeah.
Not to go
Yeah,
through,
for sure.
but definitely a good example of something that you probably in this case, I would say the projection arises from the hopelessness of the situation, yet wanting to correct just to get back at the life force for creating such a situation. Why does it have to be that way? And
Exactly.
so, very understandable where that
Yeah,
projection is
and I
coming
know
from.
that my mom's mom died of Alzheimer's. My mom is heading in that direction. It's scary to know what's next. And the ironic thing is, I'm in clinical research and work, and one of the studies that I'm currently on is an Alzheimer's study. So it's just I'm very much surrounded by that right now. So I'm very much taking a look at things that are scary, but I need to confront.
Well, that's good. I'm glad that you're taking the courage to do so, because that whole field is like you're immersed in a projection field of Alzheimer's. So that's, I mean, there's another way of looking at projection, that it's whatever's permeating the space that you happen to be occupying a lot
Yeah.
of, and
Yep.
especially if you're doing a study on it, well, then it's like you're literally, your life is a like a projector, like when you project
Yep.
something on a screen, it
Exactly.
literally is that's being projected for you
Mhm.
right now. So that's an interesting way to look at it too. So very,
Crazy.
yeah. Well, thank you for sharing.
You're welcome.
Adriana, do you have something you would like to share?
Yeah. So recently, because of all of the Black Lives Matter stuff going on, I thought it would be a really good idea in my neighborhood, because everybody's kind of uninformed. So I wanted to take a stand in my neighborhood, and I wanted to put up 3 Black Lives Matter signs in my front yard, and I organized a neighborhood protest last Saturday. And a couple days ago this week, our house was actually vandalized and our signs were painted over in white. And somebody hang a black hanger on one of our outside lights. And they toilet papered and egged our house and other stuff like that. And so obviously it sent us into a lot of panic. And my first thought immediately was, we have to redo the signs and we have to clean up our yard, and we can't let them know they won. Like, we can't stop. Because, you know, in all of the activist calls that I'm on and all of the webinars that I go to, that's what they always say. You never let them win. And so in all of that, I managed to forget about the safety of our home and of us. And so over those following days, Mom and I got into a really big argument because she wanted to take the signs down for our safety. And it was really, really rough for me to confront that. And in hindsight, I look at it and I was projecting a lot, because I tend to work myself really, really hard. With
Adriana,
yeah,
take a deep
yeah.
breath, and stay in your center, because it's really important when you do shadow and all the work here that you don't let the emotion take you over. So I want to help you learn how to take that emotion and use it in a positive way. Take that emotion and just take a few deep breaths and allow it to move through your system and allow it to kind of shape what you want to say rather than take over your energy field, because you can do that. Because I like how you're expressing all you feel, but I want you to bring it out as a kind of offering and an understanding into the space rather than a releasing in the space. Do you understand what I'm saying? Because that's the kind of space we're working with here. And you can see how your mother and I have shared, we can get into that feeling and feel it, but it doesn't take us over to the point where we what we're expressing starts, the edges of it start to crumple because the emotion behind it is starting to take over. So if you can do that, I think it would be a great lesson for you in just discipline and awareness. And I know because I've seen your design, you're capable of it. So if you could just step into that and give yourself the courtesy and the opportunity to stand tall and just own it, and then just share it with us from that space.
When we're arguing and you just are calm and then you talk back to me like that.
Hi, Denise. Okay, go.
Hi. Yeah, so in hindsight, I think I was projecting a lot because in a lot of the things I do, I want to see results and make sure that I don't give up, because I know that nobody else will solve these problems. It has to be me. Because, you know, another thing you learn as a sort of activist 101 is that you can't wait for other people, right? Like, you can't just sit around and say, oh, you know, somebody else will do it. And so I tend to put a lot of pressure on myself to help do it. And so I think when I got so upset at my mom when we took the signs down, it was because I didn't want the other people to feel like they were winning, because I don't want myself to feel like I'm losing, I guess. So yeah, that's been a really potent experience of projection lately for me.
You always amaze me, Adriana. I can't imagine if I had half the balls you did, a tenth of the balls you did when I was your age, man. I would have been able to move mountains. That's crazy. I mean, I'm so proud of you. What you just said you did, that is like insane courage. Because most people would probably want to go out and join the protests that are already happening, where it's in a more, organized way. To just kind of throw it right out into the street where you live, that's like ballsy. So good for you. Good for you, because I think that'll be incredible for you in building your character and what you'll be able to do, and what you'll be able to do when you're a full-fledged, citizen or whatever. Cool. Thank you. So Denise, we're just you got here just perfect. Everybody shared the shadow of projection of the 18th life code of mirroring. It's all about correcting things for the purpose of making improvements, but at the shadow level, instead of correcting to make improvements, we take what we don't like about what's being corrected and projected on others. And so that's kind of where we're at right now at the shadow. So I invite you, if you're ready, and you don't have to be, I mean, otherwise we'd just go to the gift, but if you feel like sharing about how you experience the shadow projection.
Hi, I'm laying down again all day since 7 a.m. on calls and stuff like that, which are my own form of activism from the digital realm. So got my crystal. Projection, like my own shadow experience of me projecting and then receiving the reflection of someone else's projection, or me not accurately seeing the projection that someone's giving me as a mirror of what's happening. Oh gosh, I'm so embarrassed. I don't want to say some of it. Like, I think that I'm a really heartful, caring, coherent person, or heartful and caring person, and I'm learning more deeply about coherence. And I would say one of the gifts, or in my chart that I'm really learning to work with, is stillness, where in the shadow it's stress, and in the gift it's restraint. So I would say that what I've projected or been projected upon is I've needed the people around me to be more activist and more conscious, and so I've often kind of made it very uncomfortable for them to become conscious, because I was really pointing out how unconscious they were. Like, I can see people's energy systems and their intentions, and I can see that there's, in the United States, a lot of people are into lying and pretending that they're different than they are. And I really thought that a lot of people were really doing that on a purposeful way, and maybe they are, but I really think a lot of people don't actually recognize to the extent that they're lying to themselves, and thus their relationships, and thus their community, and thus their what they're putting in for their contribution to life. So I would often point that out to people, because I could really read people and see them, and they would all so much of the time not be able to actually to compute or work with the information that I gave them, because I projected upon them that they were doing it on purpose, and that they were doing it to hurt the world, or hurt me, hurt the world around them, when really I was probably, and then they were projecting upon me, how they wanted to get away from me, or, you know, and then I was like lonely, you know, so they were just like, shut up, leave me alone, you know, and I'd be like, why don't you want to look at reality, you know, and this kind of stuff. And I was like, why can't anyone look at reality? Why is everyone not being able to see that their energy that they're putting into life is really cruel to me and to others? And then, so, you know, but what I learned on that level of me being like, you know, pointing the finger and saying, you're being bad energy, is that people do not know that they're being that, and they don't, when the finger's being pointed at them, it hurts because they think that they're loving beings. And I know because people have pointed the finger at me as well, and I'm like, what are you talking about? You know, and so like the reflection is that when people were pointing the finger at me, then I had to really, really look inside and be like, am I really being that bad of a person or that mean? I thought I was all about heart, and I know that I'm coming from heart. I'm intending that, but you know, the very act of me being in stress over someone else's stress was not being a gift to the world. You know, I wasn't being like motherly or as caring as I thought I could be and wanted to be. And so that's where nourishing activism comes in. That's where mothering activism comes in. That's where I had to really look at my femininity and how I grew up in, you know, I'm third generation feminist. You know, that's kind of like in history, like my grandmother was able to read. My mother, you know, divorced her husband and raised children alone. And then here I am, a woman without children. And so, you know, there could be a next generation, but because I maybe didn't, you know, I emasculated the men around me rather than celebrating their hearts and their beauty, and the men are actually so beautiful inside that I fell in love with, you know. And like, if I could only nourish their loving self, and you know, be able to see that I was projecting upon them being the bad guys, and that they were projecting upon me about being a bad woman, then maybe we could have had some beautiful synergy. And so I'm learning how to be more in restraint and in stillness, and feel the other person's heart through all the veils of their frameworks that isn't working for them and is in shadow, so that we can speak to each other in the gift and the illumination space. Am I speaking correctly about this? Am I doing okay?
I don't know how you could not do okay. So, you know, I mean, because everything in this space, you're in shadow space. That's what really matters. If you weave in and out of this life code and link other life codes into it, which you do a lot, it's totally cool. I mean, it's not like there's a right or a wrong way to go. The whole point is that you're projecting how you think others should be in a relationship, and then expecting them to live up to that, and then going into the whole, and then there's a whole mix of things that come out of that. Well, that's what you. That's
I'm
what.
so sad of that projection.
Well,
I don't want it anymore.
Yeah, but we all do it, and in relationship is the greatest mirror of all, because it's where all the projections happen. So you're really just speaking for all of us. I mean, we all do that,
Well,
in one
it's the
way or another.
activist role. It's the dark side of the activist role. We forget that we're all loving humans, and that when we're you know, sad that the world is in a certain way and right in our face, then we can act from a different space of more loving and activating. Being an activist is activating people's hearts into
Okay, but
harmony.
wait for the gift.
Okay.
We're not at the
Okay.
gift yet. You're starting to shift.
Okay.
I can feel it. You're starting to take the energy up. Just stay in the heaviness for now. We'll get there.
I'm so sad for having been there. I want to leave this shadow, and I want to be a heartfelt activist. Thank you.
Yeah, no, but that was a lot of good stuff. There was a lot of good, all kinds of good pieces in there. And I really love the way you express yourself, and you can weave so many different threads every time you express yourself. I think that it just enriches the space. Because like I say, there's no right or wrong way to do it. I'm more like the one who just, I'll be the one who keeps the thread because that's what I do really well. And everybody else, if they want to go into other, weave things together. And even if you get on a little sidetrack and tell a bit of your life story, and that's all good, because it's the most important thing is we're in shadow space right now. We got a heavy stone that weighs us down. We're exposing it. We're bringing light to it, and that will light it up and create a beautiful clear crystal when we move to the gift. So that's just, we're working on our stone. So hi, Nancy. I'm glad you made it back. Everybody's shared their shadow so far. And you were here for the reading in the beginning, so you know what this is all about. And if you have anything you'd like to share on
yeah, like when I don't think I heard the reading. We were just chatting, and my phone ran out of juice.
Oh.
And I was trying to plug my phone in with my friend's charger, and it was not working.
Okay. Well, so now is everything good?
Yeah, everything is okay now. I'm actually almost home, so I'm probably going to have to disconnect in a minute again for just a minute, and then I'll get in home and plug my phone in and rejoin again.
Okay, so, all right. So we'll see you when you rejoin us, I guess. And we're going to shift into the... You're real broken up. I can't really understand what you're saying. It's okay. We'll just, you gotta, if you have to rehook up, go ahead and do that. Take your time. We're gonna go into the gift when you finally jump in, whatever that is. Yeah, she's out again. Okay. So as Denise so perfectly did, was just starting. I love it in our meetings when somebody starts to shift to the next step just naturally without even trying, because that's just kind of a signal that we're on the track of the life code that we're doing. But before we go there, let's see if Nancy's audio is if we can hear her now. Are you there, Nancy? Okay, so we're going to the gift. And the gift of this life code is clear reflection. Because the essence of this life code is about mirroring, it always reminds me of the story that was told about Buddha and one of his main disciples, Ananda, who was having and I can't remember if this was just a tendency he had all the time when he was confronted with issues, or if it was just a specific issue. Either way it would work, but basically he was struggling with a certain aspect of his path where he could not get a firm perception of what it was he was trying to work on and face and encounter in himself, so that he could bring more awareness to that place in himself. So he could obviously, and I mean, they probably didn't use these terms back then, so he could have some release from his shadow and start to get more into the gift aspect of who he was. So Buddha told him this story. They happened to be walking through a forest at the time that this conversation was going on, and Buddha said, pick up that stick over there. And they were just in front of a puddle of water. He said, take the stick in that puddle and just stir the stick up all over the place. And so Ananda did. And then Buddha said, look into the puddle now, and what do you see? And Ananda looked into the puddle, and he said, I just see that I've really stirred up this puddle, and it's just all mud and dirt and bits of forest and bugs and all kinds of things just swirling around in there. And I mean, and it's very like cloudy, and nothing is very clear. And then Buddha said, now, and he said, let's just have a seat for a moment and let's just sit here and maybe meditate for a few minutes. So they sat there and they meditated for a few minutes, and then Buddha said, now open your eyes and look into the puddle now. What do you see? And he said, I see my clear reflection. And Buddha, I just love Buddha's stories. And he said, and that's the nature of what you're looking for in yourself, Ananda. He said, if you are agitated by emotions and thoughts and the right way to do this path and how to, and how to work on yourself. And if you're full of all those kind of things, whether they're worldly or spiritual, doesn't matter, then your capacity to witness what's really needs to be worked on yourself will be no clearer than this puddle, when you stirred it up with a stick. There's just no way you're going to get a clear reflection. But if you can just take a moment and get clear about your intent to become aware more deeply of whatever the pattern it is that's blocking you from moving forward on your path and ultimately in your life, and how you can express your spiritual nature in your life for the betterment of all beings, including yourself. You just have to take a moment and stop, like we do at the beginning of these meetings, and just take a clear break from what was before to what is to come, and give some space for something new to come in to the experience that comes out of an empty, open space. And so, of course, Ananda at that point had an insight, and he got it, and he realized that the only way you're going to get a clear reflection is by stopping the world that you're creating in your mind, and then feeling about it in your emotions, and then having that be the way you empower your actions. You have to stop all that. And how do you stop it? By stopping. It's not like you could do anything about that. You got to just stop doing it. You got to stop doing, because some things don't require doing, they require seeing. And a clearer mirror is for seeing. And once you can see, out of that space, a whole different kind of doing happens. A whole different possibility of acting occurs. And so that's my sharing of the gift, that story, and then plus just everything that I kind of embellished it with, because I didn't remember the story perfectly, but enough to make the point. I think everybody could understand that. Yeah. So that's when the mirroring actually begins, when you stop the world. And just to finish, I'll add in my own personal note, because that was more of the collective, offering to the collective of a beautiful story, and how mirroring can actually start to happen is by, breaking the habit of our judgment or our projection or our prejudice or our stereotype or our Lord knows how many different ways we project. So many of them are speciesist kind of way of looking at things. Anything that separates us from something else and makes us want to push it away with the parts of us we don't accept about ourselves. But when we stop, so it's usually, more and more I discover in my life, and it's taken a lot of years for that to happen, but more and more I discover that I'm able to catch it before I even enter into the space of being identified with my scenario, and which requires me to project, because the minute you're identified, you're going to project. But the minute you stop identifying and realize, oh, I'm here, I'm involved in this, and I'm a witness of this situation, and everything that's happening in this situation ultimately is not me. So I have the choice how I can enter into this situation. And if I stop and I center and I breathe and I remember myself, then I will get a clear reflection of what is happening around me. And then but not always. There are times where I'll be involved in the in the projection. But a deeper truth is that these shadows do have usefulness if you can project with compassion into places that need a good reflection of how they're projecting their energy in a way that's harming others. Then that's a useful way to utilize the shadow consciously, like Jesus in the money changer's temple with the whip. He's saying, you guys are all just, you know, manipulating and stealing and doing all the things you're doing and getting lost in the value of money that's becoming more important than human relationship and interaction and the quality of exchanging and bartering and that kind of thing. Yes, then you can, then the projection is conscious. In fact, in Aikido, the internal art of Aikido, martial art, they even call what they do when a shadow action comes at them, a punch or a kick or somebody trying to knock them over. And what they do with that energy and how they harmoniously spin it around their body and then release it out harmlessly so it doesn't harm them or harm the person who was trying to harm them, they call those projections. Isn't that funny? So there is an actual way to use these shadows in an artful way that helps, that brings the shadow back on the source of the projection, but in a way that transforms the projection into a clear reflection of their own energy. So that's all I'll say about that. And that's something I've had to do in my life as a martial artist on many occasions, especially in a teaching mode, to teach people how to deal with other people's projections. But you also, the most important thing is to learn how your projections and to learn to get a clear reflection of your own projections. That's where the work really begins, where you start to step out of your projecting habituation into the capacity to center, calm down, relax, get back into the natural state of being, and then you can see what's in the puddle clearly, your own reflection. In anything that comes up next to you, you can also see its reflection. Okay, that's enough sharing for me. Whoever would like to share about the gift of clear reflection and how you experience that, please do.
Will you please put the writing back up again, just for a reminder?
I never took it down. Did it disappear? I am screen sharing. Does everybody else thumbs up if you see the?
Yeah, if you
I see it.
if you click on the little window, there should be. Sorry, yeah.
I see it. I just didn't realize that it was there. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm on my cell phone, so I flip between screens and.
Oh yeah, you had to scroll to it. Yeah, that's what happens on a cell phone. Right. Yeah, no, it's up. It's been up the whole meeting. I'm kind of just keeping it up now. So I figure it's the easiest way to keep everybody on track, since we all like to meander from the track, which is fun, but it's helpful to get us back on the track too. Okay.
Yeah, I like having it up. Thank you. I can go. I would say that the gift of clear reflection has been my journey really deeply for the last 10, 11 years. I've been diving super duper deep into my own inner space, my own inner world experiences, and seeing what frequencies and codes are programmed in me and questioning whether they serve me or not, and actually speaking to them as if they're almost like entities, but more like loops and patterns of thought and feeling, and how my nervous system and body has been coded according to my experience in life, and going back to the time when this experience may have been originally coded. And and to shift it from there, facing and accepting my limitations, but also transcending them and shifting them to potential, because I believe in the experience of reflecting upon our life experiences and our life codes of what's inside us. Then we can also reflect on, is this serving me? Is this serving my health? Is this serving my relations? Is this serving my highest good? Is this serving my offering? And so, like, deep inquiry of every aspect of the being, from every organ speaks, every thought in your mind that comes up, and then the layers of that and how it interconnects, and like kind of an onion layering of networking of your own mind system, your heart system, your gut, your nervous system, and from this embodied 3D experience to the 5D out beyond, and how we interweave with time and space, but how we interweave with relations and in our work. And I've been a reflector on that kind of space for most of my life, but I dove really deep in for the last 11 years, and I said, no, this is my only focus. Like, if I'm going to be really an activist of Earth with bringing my gift to life as a technologist and designer of world systems through our embodiment, then I have to know that my space of my reflection is okay. And I always look at any experience that I've had in my life since I was a child. I've been like, okay, what's going on with this? Is this something I did? Is this something, how is it interacting with me? So how a relationship or a system is interacting with my own system, and seeing what the feedback system is, and the neurofeedback of the system that I'm interacting with, and then inquiring about whether it's serving me, or if I can be of a higher grade human, and how do I do that, and can I do it now, or do I have to step back and upgrade myself? Is it possible for me to do that? Is this person, this system, this thing that I'm involved in, is it completely serving me, and is it serving the higher good of what I actually bring to Earth as a cosmic conscious activist for life thriving? Has been a lifetime of inquiry, but really, really, really reflecting on like every molecule and every buzz, every spin, every vibration, every thought, every feeling, every image that comes in and out of my system, what signals are coming in and what outputs I'm creating, is really what I've been looking at, and is a great gift of knowing what humanity is through me, and what the resolution of my being is, and whether I am resonant in harmony with my true gift to life, and my connection with all, or not. So reflection has been a great gift, and so that's actually what I help people with. I also have a lot of courses, taken a lot of courses on how to go deep within, and I can bring people on journeys. So I bring myself on journeys and deep reflection, and I can bring other people on journeys as well on multiple levels, from subconscious spelunking, transformative visualization, theta, and music, sound, and other kind of energy work. So there you have it. Reflection is a great tool. I'm so thankful for that, to become resonant and high resolution being for Earth, gift, life, illumination. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Denise. It's nice to hear when we get to a life code where somebody has this in their human design chart as a definition that connects this life code to the other life code on the other side of the channel, which means for Denise, she has a permanent access to this her whole life. So, and it happens to be her incarnation cross too. So this is like the most powerful thing in her genetic codon matrix. So that was really kind of cool to be taken through the eyes of one who actually has a deep contribution to make to this life through you living it of this life code. So that was really educational because I had no idea that there was that much, you know, until you expressed it, that much detail and painstaking detail and ability to distinguish so many different gradations of experience and put it all together in so many different kind of ways and to make it useful to others. And so that's really quite something. No wonder you can do what you do. Yeah. Thank you.
Hello? This is Nancy. Can you hear me?
Yep. Just had to unmute. Go
Oh.
right ahead. Do
Hi.
whatever you, we're up through to the gift, so you can either do shadow and gift or just shadow
Well,
or
I was thinking about the gift, about, you know, how clear reflection. And I know there are times when I have experienced great, you know, clarity, and then times when I really struggle with that. And I think being in transition, which we, I guess, all are, to a certain degree or another, sometimes it can be very difficult to know what's really, you know, coming from a clear place or not. But like I said, especially when we're in transition. And you know, clarity for one person or group can be the opposite for, or you know, not for another. And oops, my battery's running out, and I just unplugged it. So
I can't hear her anymore. Can anybody else hear her?
no. She's got to get a little charge again. So if anybody else, Adriana or Danya, if either one of you would like to reflect on clear reflection.
Yeah, I could try. For me, I was really hesitant about sharing for this one just because I don't know if I've ever really experienced something like it before. And I don't know if it's that's just because of my age or I'm not really sure. But I think it sounds great. I'd love to get there at some point. And I was just kind of thinking it might be that because I tend to like flood myself so much with work, I might not have time to stop, like you were talking about, and really try clear reflection and really try self-reflecting. I always say, like, I don't like stillness. I don't like not doing anything. I love being on the go, and I love organized chaos, as I call it. I love always being busy. And I think that could potentially be because I don't really like self-reflection. But yeah, I don't want to bring us back into the shadow space, so I'm gonna keep it pretty short and not go down that road. But I think I should probably try to change my lifestyle a little bit so that I could leave some more room and space for myself to work on self-reflecting.
What I'll say about what you just said is that that was a pretty clear reflection. See, people, I think what happens, and it's a tricky thing, when we get into this path working stuff, which all this, what I'm doing, everything I share is called path working, and it's about it's about accepting your nature as it is, especially at the gift level. And what I just got from a very clear reflection from you is you like activity, you like movement, you like, what did you call it, control chaos. So to me, that's your clear reflection. The story I told about Buddha and Ananda and the mirror and the puddle and the whole reflection thing was a metaphor, because it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to stop and do a tradition and change your life or do any of those things, because I think you really are brilliant and fine as you are. And you're going to find many times in the midst of that motion a certain stillness inside you, whether that's a calm, clear knowing that aligns you with your purpose and keeps you moving in the direction you're moving. That's a perfectly clear reflection. That's a totally different way. These things are not stuck in the way they need to be expressed in life. And we've been given that terrible impression from the way we're taught in school, that everybody's cookie cutter taught the same way to do everything. And that's the worst way to teach everybody anything, because everybody has a unique way of tuning into each one of these codes at every level. There is no right or wrong way. For you to do it in total activity, it makes sense to me that you do it that way. I remember you have your incarnation cross is individualism. So you are definitely not going to do anything like anybody else on this planet does, and take it as a clear warning. If you are, you're not being yourself. The minute you try to do it the way anybody else does, you're missing you. So don't do anything the way anybody else tells you to do it. Just take it in, what they give you, and then let it come out however you freaking feel like letting it come out, because that's who you are. Yours is the cross of individualism. That means you're going to be everything you do, like what you did on your street, being and just creating what you did. I've never heard of that before. That's you. That's individualism. You have to face that. It's also in this world a pretty scary thing to do. It takes a lot of courage, but you've been designed to do that. So I would just take heart in the fact that you have that ability. So just you thinking you're going to say some short little thing has given a lot of material to open up a whole different way of looking at how we work with these things. Because it's not like I say it and then you go off, like what most people do. Oh, I like what they said. I'll just take that and add a little to it. That's hiding behind somebody else's expression. No. I want to say to you, you did it correctly until you started to say, oh, I better change my lifestyle and try to figure out how to do this clear reflection thing like Darby said in his story. Forget what Darby said in his story. You find your own way to get a clear reflection. And you're doing it through being active, and the center of the cyclone is more your style. Not sitting on a quiet lake on a cool day, just, being still. You have a different way of connecting to it. So I'm going to support that and help you to realize that your way is going to be very unique your whole life. And you're doing it right if you're doing it the way nobody else has ever done it. Then you're being you. Otherwise, if you're trying to do it the way somebody else and be a copycat, you're way off track. So forget about that. So that'll be a challenge for you, because you'll have to take the essence of things and just absorb it deeply into who you are and come from that space with it. And I've noticed that about you. Every time you express, it's always a bit unique. You don't compare to anybody else. You have your own way of shining, and you just got to support that in yourself.
That's really interesting. Thank you.
Nancy, do we have you back? Are you here?
Yeah, I think I have like 8% on my phone.
Maybe you should just keep it plugged in so it doesn't move.
I just got home, so I had to feed my cats.
Oh, you're at home now. Oh.
I've been home for a little while. When I reconnected, in fact, and then I lost you because as I'm driving up to where I live, there's a pocket where I don't get any signal. And then I had my phone plugged into my car, and then I had to bring my phone in, and then anyway. So it's funny because when I was showing that clear reflection, and I keep losing my phone signal, but I am back here now. My
Everybody,
cats,
everybody noticing how Nancy gives a clear reflection? Hint, hint. Oh, no, just kidding. No, I'm not.
I just didn't know. I was just laughing about it as I was coming back on because my signal's been horrible and just really because I let my phone get out of juice. That was really what happened. I didn't plan it well because I usually bring a charger with me, and because when I'm at my friend's house taking care of a kitty, I'm there like usually a couple of hours. But anyway, so yeah, the whole idea of clear reflection and these things really resonate with me so much. It's really been like my whole life's purpose, I feel, to develop these things, and it's so important to have, inner clarity. And like I was saying earlier, I think that for, some people we might call inner clarity, other people may not, but like you were just saying, just follow your bliss, let be that authentic self. And I found that the more authentic that I have been in my life, the more at odds I feel like I've been with most others around me. And it's even happened, in the vegan world. And for me, like being around vegans or, having like an all vegan meal and just being around people that really get that, it's always felt like home. So it's especially painful when I experience all of this discord among vegans, and we really all want the same thing. We want liberation for animals is so important. And to me, it is a matter of justice, for all. And especially now, like too, with Black Lives Matter, I feel like I've put that like way at the top of the burner for me because it's such an important issue, and especially in the US. I don't know how bad it is in other countries, but I do know that it's really important that we just sit back and just listen, kind of STFU, if you know what I mean, and just let our Black family members. Hold on a second. Come on in, Jasmine. I have a little routine with my kitties where I have to. Oh, she's not done yet. Hold on. Oh no, I gotta get her. No, you can't. Anyway, I have 4 cats and I have to feed them differently, and I just let one into the kitchen too soon. She goes after another cat's food. So hold on. So yeah, so that's, I think that's enough for me for right now. Sorry about that.
Yeah, I always thank you for sharing, Nancy. It's always thought provoking, the things that you say. Yeah, it's interesting, and that's probably why not only that
So I
I
muted
don't.
myself again, so I'm going to mute myself.
Okay. I just wanted to kind of play off of what you said a little bit to keep everything tied into the theme.
So Darminda, what's your take on what I said?
Right, that's what I'm going into. Do you you must be able to hear me and realize that I am speaking already. I would assume. So yes, what my take is on.
I can't hear anything. Are you talking?
Yes.
Oh man, it's like the worst night for me. I can't hear you.
Anyway, even though she can't hear me, I'm gonna say what I have to say about it, and that is that that's why I do what I do in these meetings, because I think until we liberate ourselves, and I think the more liberated, self-liberated vegans we have, the more effective, and I think this goes for anything in life, not just veganism, the more effective the movement will be. Because if we have people, including vegans, that are still dealing with a lot of shadow stuff, we're just going to get in each other's way. And we're not, the world's not going to get a clear reflection of what veganism is really about and how it's such an essential, meaningful, useful, loving, peaceful, respectful, you know, really worth doing kind of thing. All they're going to get is, boy, you guys are loaded with whatever you're loaded with over there, and it's coming across really intense, and that's all we're really getting is the static of your shadows. And I'm paraphrasing using my own terminology for how I see it. But, you know, that's why I do this meeting. And that's probably why not a whole lot of people come to it, because quite frankly, to be honest, like everybody else in the world, including most vegans, they're not really interested in waking up a whole lot and becoming self-liberated in the process. Too bad, because the more we can bring awakening into any picture, especially veganism, which is so important in the world right now, the more effective the message is going to get across, and the more we can start impacting things like climate change and just everything else that happens to animals in such a more effective way, in such a more strategically effective way. Yeah. So I just kind of off of what Nancy said, it just makes a lot of sense to me to share as much as possible of the path of, I mean, really, this what I do, what I share here, what I teach is the path of self-liberation, because that's what the path of awakening is. What you're awakening to is yourself. Once you awaken to yourself, you're going to liberate. You're going to liberate yourself from your shadow. You're going to allow your gift to go out into the world. And you're eventually, if you just keep going that way, the siddha is going to start to pay attention to you and start to come into and illuminate your life from within. And that's so needed in the vegan world, more than probably anywhere else, because it's probably the most impactful thing anybody could do right now in terms of real down-to-earth practical, what can I do for myself right now? The true activism right now is that step. Because from there, we eliminate things like war and pandemics and racism and speciesism and all the other isms that create divisions, because we stop eating violence and the chemistry of violence that causes us to be so shadowy in the first place. What we eat is, I mean, if you're eating animals, then 90% of your shadows is supported by what you eat chemically. Because we are a batch of chemistry in this world. I mean, that's how we appear. That's how we maintain a form chemically. So if we're absorbing the death and the suffering of animals all the time, what do you? That's what we're gonna. That is literally in our aura. We are supporting war and pandemics and all that, and you know, and the child, you know, the horrible things that happen to children, and I won't even get into it because I don't feel like it. It's not really germane to what we're talking about, but the abuses of every form of animal, including human. So, I mean, it never surprised me, because my whole life I see that very few people are drawn to the path of awakening, because you have to expose your shadows, and everybody thinks they're perfect. And yet they go on eating animals and doing all these insane things that they do, and holding their fixated beliefs that keep us separate, based on the color of our skin or the type of life form we inhabit or the beliefs we have or our relationship to God. Lord knows, you go on about it, on and on. And they're all useless, meaningless divisions. They don't carry any ultimate significance. There's no significance in any of that shadows. It's all projection. And that all of that is a clear reflection on, you know, why I created this meeting. It's to help people to awaken and self-liberate. Because only with I mean, that's the world I want to be part of, with all these movements that are going on to address all these things, which veganism does, Black Lives Matters, all of those things. If it's not ultimately helping people to self-liberate, then all of this is just going to go, then we're going to create a world of perfectly good people that are totally asleep, and we will have achieved nothing, because, well, then again, we're going to find other ways to divide ourselves, I guarantee it. Because in the end, we'll just, you know, you cannot live solutions without being asleep, being still caught up in the conditionings you were raised in. You don't, I mean, it's sad to break a conditioning by adopting a new conditioning. When you break a conditioning, be done with the conditioning. Be done with the racism. Be done with the eating animal, whatever it is that you're breaking the conditioning of. The proof that you broke it is that you woke up a little more, and you didn't transfer that conditioning to some other form of behavior that's the same conditioning hiding in a different form. So these are all ways to use mirroring in impactful ways, clearly reflecting what's going on in the world and why it's important to have a clear mirror, which is ultimately what witnessing and awakening is about, so you can self-liberate. Enough said for now. I think, Danya, if you would like to share a little of your gift here, you don't have to, but if you feel like it, please do. Give a little space.
Hi, Dark. Thank you. I think that I was struggling actually with this mirror of reflection, and so that's why I'm actually talking, so I can struggle through it. You know, it's interesting coming from my psychological background. Those of you who don't know, I have a master's degree in psychology, and so I feel that a lot of the projection and mirrors, I've done a lot of that with clients, feels like lifetimes ago, because I'm not doing that currently or haven't. I feel like, and when I was teaching also, a lot of the mirroring that I feel is, it's interesting when I am feeling like I'm in the zone, and that's when I feel like when I'm feeling really connected to the source and to existence. And sometimes for me, what I find the most powerful is when I feel like I'm mirroring somebody without any words. It's completely nonverbal. For me, it's more of a feeling. It's a connection. It's not only that I'm connected to the source, but I'm connected to all beings once I'm in the source. So when I smile, they smile. When I feel they're happy or I feel their sadness, it's such a purity, such an amazing feeling that for me, that's when I know, and I can't even say I know because that's almost too cerebral, but it's a feeling of purity, of clearness, of mirroring, of knowing that whatever it is that's coming through is pure. And it's almost looking at a glistening pond, a glistening stream, a reflection of water, and it's just very fluid. And that's when I feel the most at peace and the most connected, when all of these are happening without any effort. For me, that's a clear, a pure mirrored reflection. Thank you for helping me walk through that.
Yeah, thank you, Danya. One thing I know about you and your design is you have a design of an organizational being like me, which activates our throat, and it's called having a voice. And a lot of times the way people like you and I that are designed that way work through an issue is literally by what you just said, talking our way through it. And as we talk, we tap into this. It's the seeing that comes from the right eye, which is able to see patterns, which was, by the way, the theme of last week's life code, which is this one, life code 17. That's the top end of that particular channel, and it's called Designs of the Spirit. It's about seeing patterns. This is about actualizing patterns and reflecting them and that kind of thing. So it's much closer to the earth. The other one is, like I say, it's the right eye and how we see. But that's what we do. Once we talk through it, we can see it. So just that reflection for you. So it was just funny that, I mean, I love it the way people's designs, that's why the magic of human design is so magical, and things like gene keys and what I'm doing here, life codes, which is just a further evolution of the other two, is that they really are real, and that they that there are my imagination and my I will say my imagination because I haven't actually met the beings that passed these teachings on to humankind 5,000 years ago in the form of the I Ching through the Chinese culture. But my imagination tells me that these are beings who work with the creation of various forms of life through genetic combinations, and they're like the creative intelligences that empower the life force to create in physical form. And so that's why these are so accurate, because we received these transmissions from beings who actually do this for a living. So what we're reading and sharing through our experience actually has been passed to us by beings who are responsible for creating the reality of these things. Which brings us to the siddha of integral reality. Funny how we ran into that like that. Because I guess I was kind of leaning into that a little bit. I wasn't intending actually, honestly, to go to the siddha yet, but that's a perfect entry into the siddha, is by acknowledging the beings who literally vibrate at the siddha level and are creative intelligences that are behind all of the genetic programmings, forces of living intelligence in organic form that exist on this planet and other planets. So I just see and feel myself right now being incredibly grateful to whole light beings of higher forms of intelligence that are responsible for the carrying of the creative energies of the life codes into planetary realms and beginning the process of planting into the most simplest forms of life the genetic possibilities that will eventually mutate into higher forms of life at certain moments when the environment's just right and certain new forces are introduced. And as that process repeats, eventually the life codes evolve into being a human being, which at this point, so far on this planet, is the sum total of all the other forms of life, genetic intelligence, lineages. We are the inheritors. So it's just amazing and interesting that because we've been given free will, just how so much of life is, in terms of the human life form, is, how should I say it, not taking full advantage of all the genetic intelligence that went into our makeup and what is truly available for us as humans. We are an integral reality of every form of life that has existence on this planet. And so really the siddha here, the true mirror that that we can be, is the mirror of all life, and that we humans are the mirror of all life, and that is an expression of integral reality. And it's amazing what happens at the siddha level always, because you never know where it's going to take you. And usually it easily transports us into more refined dimensions. But with this siddha tonight, it's actually the total truth of what we are as humans. We don't have to go into any higher form of life. We are one of those higher forms of life through this siddha, because through mirroring, we can touch the absolute. We can touch the source of everything, because in that sense, as a witness, we are absolute. We humans are absolute. We are, if you like the Christian term or the Western term, we are God in the sense of our capacity to witness. Literally, as a human. We don't even have to go into any higher form of intelligence. In that place, the wholeness of our being as pure, clear light is manifest for all of existence, as a gift to all of existence. So in that way, we are God to all of existence. And so that is just a truth that is contained in this life code. That is, for me right now, even though I was aware of that, was not aware that it was this particular life code that actually allows that truth to come out. So it is in the sense that we, as humans, in the depths of our pure witnessing consciousness, also partake of higher forms of intelligence all the way to the source as humans. Because that capacity is given to us humans. And it is these greatest natural endowment we've been the recipients of, without even anything other than the desire to awaken and then having to liberate yourself through the process of awakening. Yes, you do have to earn it, but it's something that is given to us as humans. We don't even have, and it's our direct connection to source. We don't even have to go through any other higher form of intelligence to become more illuminated about that. We are the illumination of that all by ourselves as humans. So that's heartening, and that's a really cool thing, to realize that in our purest witnessing consciousness, we are the absolute. Not in its total sense, but in the sense of witnessing. We have access to the absolute experience of what absoluteness is. Yeah.
No wonder I relate with this so well. So you're saying that this is a part of my cross? Because this is so, what I'm doing in my work, and my technology, and my dream of creation for life.
Mhm.
Is, I have a few campaigns, and one of them is called the potential for totality, which is the potential of humanity to have this integral reality of their full embodied system coming truly online and engaged with a reality that is resonant and high elevated or coherent consciousness. I'm trying not to use the word high or elevated. I'm not trying to say high or low, dark or light. I'm trying to say just illuminated and coherent in a space that is of a vibration that is healthy to life itself, where the potential for totality is the system of the body coming into its highest potential. Or I'm just going to keep on saying highest, is the easiest. The highest potential, or the most like we have this blueprint of potential through the genetic code, what this Gene Keys really offers as one blueprint of the spectrum, and looking at from going shadow to gift to light and or illumination. And if we had our entire body lit up in illumination, we would be star beings, because we would just be pure light emanating in the etheric world and connecting to each other, or the elemental world. And so I see that the technology of the internet and the systems that we're making and the economies, it's like an evolution of humanity coming deeper into light embodiment. And so the light embodiment would be where all of our chakras, all of our energy systems, all of our nadis, every single one of our cells are completely aligned. All of our molecules are being built according to an intention. Our atoms are spinning with the resonance of the high quality of our intentional space of being in coherent fields that we actually truly value, which are love and connection, gratitude, acknowledging and honoring each other, ourselves. I think so many of us are crying out for that deep, intracellular full love vibration in our entire being. And I definitely have that, having my sun and Venus right next to each other. So I'm very much all about love. And I tried so long to not be talking about love, but I'm all about love and the love vibration in our embodiment and coming through in the technology of our bodies in high resolution, total capability, and recognizing those patterns within us to be in that coherent space. And so that's why I'm working with initiatives in technology to actually help people come into coherence through a kind of gamification that tokenizes and upgrades our tokenizes us to actually upgrade to coherent spaces, because our past systems were competitive and win-lose, and now we can be win-win. And this is the new technology that we can create, the new interfaces, the new systems that we create, which are based on our energy bodies being in the illuminated state of the patterns of the full spectrum of our genes, and intertwining, entangling, and connecting in that level. So we're doing this in quantum consciousness, and we're also doing this in technology. We're doing this in all the fields of physics, and I think a lot of humanity is feeling this. And it's so interesting that this is actually, I didn't realize this is such a deep code of mine, and it feels so resonant, and that's exactly what I'm doing with my work and everything that I do. Like I see and I visualize my network system within myself, and how I connect with the network systems of others, and that would be called chi or prana or mana in other systems. And in the digital system, it's like ones and zeros, which is really us bringing our spiritual sun rays of self online. So yeah, I've always seen patterns. I'm super recognizing patterns my whole life, and I know that that's a type of intelligence. And that intelligence is coming up in the space of the world right now. So, and people are understanding what I'm talking about. So, because we all want to be in a resonant space, and we want to be better people, or like that's, people have gotten mad at me for saying better, but it's about being our highest potential, and being that illumination and connecting in those fields and of love, care, gratitude, compassion, honor, and all that kind of jazz. So however we can bring that about through journeys and through technologies are what I'm doing. And groups, thank you. I would love to know more about how that's my thing.
Yeah, I'll just say one thing, just a little key for you, because I know your design, is that the key for you to and I'll speak siddhas, and I'll speak them from the Gene Keys language, which is a good way to do it. But well, actually, it's it's the one from this week and the one from last week. So you're talking the holistic vision of the integral reality, and but that is for you a body intelligence. So the more you tune into your body's intelligence, the more you're going to get that, and the more people are going to literally pick that up from you through your body, not from your mental so much, but through your body, because it's on your vehicle side. It's not on your personality side. So it's a body thing. Vehicle, it's your vehicle.
And that's where the journeys come in. So I would love to guide people on journeys, really.
Yeah. And you opened up something that I'm going to go into a little bit here, because I'm not sure if everybody's aware of this, but one of the things about the story of the 7 bodies, because man has 7 bodies, and they're said differently in different systems. My favorite way, and it's going to be 8, but the first 2 are really 2 sides of the same body, which is the physical and the etheric. That's the first. And then you have the astral, the mental, the causal, and even some people call it the Buddhic. I prefer spiritual. Some people call it the Atmic. I prefer cosmic. And some people call it monadic. I prefer nirvanic. I like the Eastern terms better for the names of these bodies. But the thing that I think, and this all came through mirroring, through my deepening awareness of us as an expression of the absolute, through our ability to see everything as a clear mirror. That's the essence of self-liberation. That's what creates self-liberation. But I think what people miss is that they think they have to go somewhere else, or go out of their body, or go into a different realm, or do something to experience these deeper bodies. The thing is that the minute we become silent, like the story I told of allowing the mud in the pool to settle so you can get a clear reflection, that's the key, the essence to this, is you start to get a perception that's more subtle than the perception you use to see the 3-dimensional world we live in physically. And when you start to do that, and it's not that you see into the next dimension like etheric or astral, even in the same way that we are able to allow ourselves to, you know, recognize objects in the physical world. It's a totally different way of assembling perception in each of the bodies, that we don't assemble perception in the same way. But if we become still, the more still we become, the more subtle our ability to perceive becomes, and we will learn those bodies that are our bodies, so it's us, just at a deeper level, will show us how to perceive these deeper dimensions of ourself where we have deeper bodies. And we don't have to go anywhere because we're embodying all our bodies every moment. The beauty is once we allow that mud to settle and that reflection to become clearer and clearer and clearer, the deeper we're going to be taught how to use our visual capacity in ways we didn't even know you could use a visual capacity, to hold and to form objects in ways that are different than the physical world where everything stays stuck as it is unless you break it or cut it or blow it up or do whatever. But it's not that way in the other realms. And so this is just another aspect of our integral reality. We have all these bodies, these sheaths, these energy frequency containers that resonate at different vibrational levels. And the more silent we become, the more those layers of consciousness will infuse our intelligence and literally take us into how we perceive in a new way, so we can start to understand things and be connected with life in much deeper ways, and start to work in ways of you could call it activism in terms of consciousness, I guess you could say, as opposed to literally doing things in the three-dimensional world to create change here. That's why Buddhas have always been so important, because just by their silence and the depth of their ability to perceive and be aware and be a witness, they have an impact in arts and culture and science and all these other areas in ways that are really, unless you start to become more still and experience those deeper levels of perception, it's hard to convey. And the vast majority of humanity that's swept up by the media and everything else will never have the attention span to slow down, stop, and be still. And Adriana, I want you to get that you can still be in deep movement and get everything I'm saying and relate to everything I'm saying from the center of the cyclone place. Start to become aware emotionally. Start to become aware of the thoughts that come through you. Start to become aware of how you create change in your movement, and you'll still be able to tap into everything I'm talking about. Because it's not about being physically stuck in one spot. It's about allowing your awareness to remain in the center of yourself no matter what's going on the surface, whether you're still or in movement. So I wanted to make sure I specified that for you so you don't make that subtle division that really isn't there, because this applies whether you're in stillness or movement. So I just thought I'd share that a little bit to open up a little bit more what the siddha is in terms of a teaching, instead of just, usually I'll go into an experiential and try to give everybody a sense of it. I think what I'll do now is put it out more as a teaching challenge to challenge people to strive to attain what I'm talking about. Can you become that still where your higher bodies start to teach you how to see them and how to see through them and what it is you see when you're seeing through them, and how that can impact the world in totally different ways that we don't even know we can yet. So I just want to take an interlude there off of what Denise said, because it sparked me to and inspired me to open that up a bit more, which she was indicating.
Thanks, Dharmendra.
So while we're in the silence, I'm just going to read something that'll tie together a few points that have been mentioned already in the siddha here. Is the second sentence here in the siddha of integral reality. A universal pattern that serves as an initiating force for the refinement and evolution of a pattern that moves through all the many layers and levels of existence. Well, in relation to every form of life on this planet, that's what we are. We are that. And in witnessing that, we can literally experience what it is like to be a universe of patterns as a pattern that includes all that and transcends all that. So I just kind of want to throw that in to the space, yeah, because it brings it down to earth too, because it connects us with everything on the earth that we experience organically. And I think it's also is what inspires every movement for justice in the world, because anytime we see a life form being taken advantage of and harmed and objectified and commodified and exploited, it's a part of ourselves that is happening to, because since everything is a part of us in this world. So to me, that's like one of the greatest inspiring forces that moves us all into action, because we are a universal pattern that connects all the patterns in this world. So there's no way we're not going to feel when something else is suffering, unless we just intentionally want to be in a state of willful ignorance and just go, well, I just don't want to feel that. But then we lose the truth of who we are. And that to me is being less than human.
Yeah, when you just mentioned that when there's an injustice done to another being, that we I guess we empathize because it's also being done to us. That's so true, you know. It's so true. It's just really resonated with me. So
Yeah, and sometimes a siddha can be that simple to express. I mean, siddhas certainly don't need words. But I got what I got. I got that you got that, Nancy. So that was really beautiful. The depth that you were able to convey in such brevity, because that's good too. That's like Zen. I like that.
I just repeated what you said.
Yeah, but you brought the essence of it through you, so it felt different. So I don't care if you said what I said. You really said what you said.
Okay, I'll take it back then. I said it. Yeah. Okay.
But thanks for the laugh.
Yeah.
Danya, nothing. One of my from the deep past of my life has known me for so many years and been through so many siddha spaces. There must be something you can pull out of that little bag of tricks of yours.
Oh my goodness, you make me laugh. I just am really enjoying the bliss. I'm enjoying the connection that we're having right now. I'm enjoying the source. the ride. You know, I really feel, I just really, yeah, I'm just surfing. I'm surfing the source. It's really beautiful tonight.
Well, thank you for that little peek into your inner world, because that is definitely an aspect I always like to hear that people are tapping into, especially when we're working with siddhas close to the earth, meaning in the human design body graph, they're the part of the lower centers. So that's nice to. And also the funny thing is too, this life code, when it forms a channel with the other life code, which is the 58th life code that hooks into the root center. It's and a couple of you have mentioned this tonight, it's the siddha of bliss. So it's funny that the integral reality would naturally hook into the siddha of bliss. It's just interesting. It's not interesting. It always makes sense, and everybody's always way more tapped in intuitively, because we are the things we're sharing and looking into and talking about. So it's not really that surprising. We are these things. Just the awareness needs to deepen so we can celebrate and enjoy and experience these things together. Did you want to say something, Nancy?
Oh, no.
You unmuted, so I wondered if, otherwise I'm going to mute you.
Wait, how is the siddha of bliss interweaving with this?
Okay, hang on one second. I'll be right back. I have to go into one of my folders and find something, and I'll show you what I'm talking about.
I'm excited because you know that's part of my code too. I want to know more about it.
Yeah. But I'm just going to show the human design body graph. I'm going to stop share and then reshare, because I have to stop share in order to reshare. Okay, where is it? It's going to, there it is. Okay, so right over here is this is what all these 64 gates look like as life force, life code containers in the different centers of us humans. We have all 64, and the 18 is right over here in the splenic center, and then the 58 is right down here in the roots. And when those two are defined in somebody's body graph, then it forms a channel, and you have continuous access to that life force for the benefit of all beings everywhere, or not, depending on whether you're working on your awakening or not. And that's the only way it would be beneficial or not. And if you're not working on your awakening, then it's going to be not beneficial ultimately. But anyway, so this here, the 50th gate, which is right here, the siddha is bliss. Okay, just so everybody, since somebody asked about it. This is called a body graph. We humans have 9 centers now, not 7 anymore. We have 9. Chakras is out of date. Sorry, guys. That's the truth. That's what's happening. That's been since the discovery of Uranus in 1781 by Herschel. Just in case anybody wasn't aware of that, that's when we became 9-centered beings. That's also when Pluto was going to go through all its 250 whatever number of years cycle and come back to the same gate it was at the discovery of Uranus, and that's when a new being's going to come through humanity in 2027. And that's a very interesting story, and that's why we're all experiencing a mutation now, so that a new being can come through humanity. And that's why young people are so amazing, and why they're so brilliant, and why they can do things, so many of them, that most of us when we were kids couldn't imagine doing. There's lots of reasons. That's why the planet's heating up too, by the way, guys, because we're all heating up as organisms because we're mutating and becoming higher frequencies, and that causes more heat. And that's where most of the heating up is coming from on this planet, but most people want to think other things that aren't helping it, of course, but most of the heating up nature is doing on purpose.
Oh, you mean that's not just hot flashes from perimenopause?
Well, now that's it. Now, that's a whole other thing. That's
Oh, darn it.
That's a whole other thing for sure. But anyway, I'm gonna go back to. In fact, I think we've done enough screen sharing. We can just keep it as us peeps because we're just getting down to the end now. If anybody else has anything they want to share, otherwise I think we'll wind it down and come to a graceful landing back in our our little physical forms, and our little everything else about us that makes us remember us as ourselves. Without all this expanded awareness we've been in for a while now. But slowly, I do hope that all this visiting higher frequencies will eventually cook us. Again, there's that heating up thing. Will help us to cook ourselves into higher states permanently, as a natural, as a normalizing higher consciousness. I stand for that's what I'm an activist of, normalizing higher consciousness. And I'll use every form to do it. And to me, veganism is the physical expression of that. So I finally think I could give voice to why veganism is so important to me as a spiritual path, because it's the physical expression of the spiritual path. And to me, it's the truly first step, because if the way of peace is, and it's not that you can't make advancements. You can, on the spiritual path, you can grow through many of your other vehicles before you really nail it in the physical. I did. I was way late in my spiritual path before I finally got veganism. It was like 30, 40 years into my spiritual path before I got veganism in the last 10 years. But I think if there's any message I can give is if you can, and if you're ready, and if you haven't been hypnotized and misled by misinformed doctors that meat is supposed to be something you actually need, because you don't. And Dr. Will Tuttle, one of the most brilliant doctors in the world, will prove from every angle you can bring to him that you don't need meat no matter what your doctor tells you. I don't care. It's true, you don't. But there are people, unfortunately, that are very deeply spiritual that when they were very vulnerable were told by their doctors, you got to eat meat to heal that nerve or disorder. And that became like a hypnotic imprint that was as bad as the imprints we get when we're born. It was so powerful, and they'll never lose that. And they'll always go, well, I just don't feel good. I have to have this meat, and I'm sorry for all. And they're even aware of everything, the climate change and all the things that the animal agriculture is doing, but they can't drop that meat because they were literally in such a vulnerable state when that doctor hypnotized them into believing they needed it that they can't drop it. And so, and what are you going to do? There's nothing I'm going to try and do about that. I'll still love those people because they're people I've known a long time. But the bottom line is, if I can tell anybody, I guess at a young age, before they get too old, if you have a choice and you can go vegan, it's the best way to start your spiritual path, if you're spiritually inclined. I'm certainly not into forcing anybody to go spiritual if they don't want to, because awakening obviously is not for everybody. It's quite a challenging thing to do. So, yeah, let's see. You know what? I would like to invite Denise, if she feels like it, because she does really good openings and closings. If she'd like to do a little synergetic synthesizer process, I would love it, because I really love the way you open and close things. Just a couple of minutes to, however you want to do it, based on your experience this evening.
Okay. I invite everyone to close their eyes and take a deep breath in through your nose and settle into a comfortable position where you're aligned in your body where you feel gravity pulling you into relaxed space, releasing your breath when you feel comfortable. And taking another deep breath in through your nose, really deep to the depths of your stomach, your abdomen, allowing it to rise up through your body and holding it, feeling the pulse and the silence and the movement, recognizing your heartbeat, your pulse, your throb, and let go of your breath, releasing all unwanted experiences out of your body. Imagining a golden egg surrounding your embodiment. This egg is your shell of light that keeps you in your high frequency. Breathing in from the top, opening the top of your egg, allowing coherent, high energetic vibrations to come into your egg, breathing in from the cosmic possibility of all there could be, and then closing the egg and allowing it to circulate through your auric field around you, inside your body, and then opening a space at the bottom of the egg and releasing any tensions and that which no longer serves you and does not need to be a part of your life, and closing the space and opening again the top of the egg, allowing in all illuminated and gifted light codes for you and your life to come in and saturate your auric field space inside your egg, inside your body, holding it, closing the top, allowing it to circulate and shift and change the inner space of your inner world. And then opening the space at the bottom again, letting it go, letting it return to earth, let it be recycled and taken up by nature to be healed. And closing your egg again. Just breathing comfortably in the safe womb of your golden egg. And know that inside of your space and your egg, you can give yourself whatever is good for you, serves you, your bliss, your harmony, your patterns of creation, your life. And that you may be connected to these coherent spaces in the world around you. So breathe that into your heart, allowing your heart to become more brilliant, and then exhaling out your heart, allowing the expansive, coherent vibrations to be released and connected to the world. Now, breathe one more time. From the fields of all possibility, breathe in love, joy, and gratitude, compassion into your heart. Holding it, feeling it circulate through your body, through your heart, and expand your brilliance. And exhale, expulsion of anything that doesn't serve you, allowing the fields of light to entangle and deepen inside the space inside of you and all your connections. Thank you for your gift, for your illumination, for coming alive to your most coherent vibration within yourself and connection with others. Welcome home, cosmonauts of loving space. You are a star vehicle of light, and know that you can be this star, this light, and that you have your own galaxy inside, and that you are in authority and sovereign authority of how you see through the gifts of your life in loving benevolence of life entangled with each other. Welcome to the awakening. You may now open your eyes and return to the space. Know that you always have this light pattern to run through you and to choose from in your blueprint of your coherent genetic vibration. Thank you.